You can also email studio@marlowfm.co.uk. And, we were having a conversation there with Lara Gray about foster care. If you do need to know about foster care, you didn't catch the name of the company, it was Capstone. But you can always contact me, Carla Delaney, and I will pass on the information. So let's change tack now. And I've got I've got two ladies sitting opposite me, but one in particular is going to kick off the conversation, Ainsley Miller. Ainsley, you're no stranger to Marlow, are you?
No, I'm not. I worked and commuted to Marlow for a good 15, 20 years in different guises. I worked in the event industry over 6 years ago before I made a big change in my life.
Now, my programme is lifestyle, and I always like it when there's somebody who's had a life change of some sort. And yours couldn't be bigger, really. You are running a business that is fantastic. I went to your centre, and you have put your heart and soul into it. I can see that. And actually, it's won an award already, and it's not that old a business, is it?
No, we've been going for a year and a half, Active Paws, just in South Oxfordshire. And we won South Oxfordshire New Business of the Year, runner-up, 2017.
I am not surprised because it is very good. So I often say to people, you never know what's going on a business park. And training dogs is not exactly what I would expect in a business park. But that's what you're doing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't exactly what our Jennings, the owners of the business park, were expecting when we contacted them about their empty units. They looked at us a bit strange and thought maybe there's going to be lots of noise and dogs barking going on, and would that upset their current people? But we walked into the unit and they showed us, and we knew that it was where Active Paws needed to be. It was going to be our home. I think Jenny, my business partner, started crying because we had felt like we'd really had come home, and it would be the start of what we hope will be very many happy years.
Well, you run Active Paws, and the building itself, I mean, it's just full of things for dogs to do, but you've got a lot of information in your head, haven't you? Because you've got a very unusual qualification. I mean, you're one of the top behavioural specialists in the country, aren't you? You've done a lot of study.
Absolutely. So when I left my commute to Marlow 6 years ago, I started studying dogs, dog behaviour, dog psychology, with a education provider called COPE, which is the Centre of Applied Petithology, and I've gone on to get my level 6 qualification, which it really takes me into a realm of really understanding dogs from very much an emotional point of view. I'm now a member of the CAPT Association, which is the COPE Association for Pet Behaviourists and Trainers. And there are a whole host of us all around the country who have various levels of qualifications, but level 6 qualification, there's 7 of us in the country.
As I say, one of the top ones. Now, what is a behaviourist? I've got a nice little dog, and she's reasonably well behaved. Reasonably.
She was very well behaved.
She was very well behaved when she met you. But why do people seek you out?
Okay, so usually something has happened with their dog at a point in time. Some people live with problems with their dogs for many years. Some people seek out help very quickly, but there's usually a reason why suddenly they've decided they needed help at that particular moment, whether their dog is struggling to settle at home, whether their dog is barking at other dogs on leads, whether they're worried about people. There's a variety of reasons why somebody might need help from a behaviourist, and my job is to look at the dog and to think about it from a dog's perspective. I'm looking at how the dog is feeling when they are displaying the behaviours the owners are describing. Of course, the dog can't tell me how they're feeling. So through all of the study that I've done, it's my job to unpick all of that, work that through, and see then how we can help the dog cope better with what's going on in its life.
So what are the sort of behaviours that are typical, or is there anything that's typical?
So So people will describe my dog as having separation anxiety, not coping being left at home on their own. So they'll be destructive. They might be, chewing at skirting boards, wrecking things, shredding cushions. They might struggle to take their dogs for a walk. They walk out and their dog sees another dog and they're barking and lunging on the end of a lead. Some dogs will bark and lunge at cars as they drive past. Others might just come to us because they struggle with recall, or they have everyday behaviours they're not coping very well with. Others may come to us because they've rehomed a dog and they need to get to know the dog and they want to teach the dog how to do things to help fit into their lives. So they come to us for a variety of reasons. Not all of it is behaviour. Obviously, we're doing training as well. But really, all training and behaviours, it's very much interlinked. So I'm constantly looking at things from a dog's point of view and how is the dog feeling at that point in time.
But it's not all the dog's fault. Well, I say fault. It can actually be the owner, can't it?
Yes.
Or dare you say that?
Yes. So the secret really with dog training and dog behaviour is the owner. We need the owner to understand what's going on, and we need the owner to understand the impact they have on their dog. And getting a well-behaved, well-rounded dog is very much, the owner is a really massive part of that. So the owner picking up the phone is great for me because it means that the owner is now on board to help their dog. And for me, that is a win-win.
We had a very nasty case. I interviewed some people they were horse riders, and they approached a ford, and there was a dog in the water, and the owner called the dog away, but she didn't have a lead, and then the dog started to attack the horses and did a great deal of damage, and the horse owners were very upset that the owner didn't do enough to stop this happening.
Yeah, that's terrible. So I have ridden horses in my time, and dogs behaving well around horses is really hard. So you're looking for your dogs to be able to behave in the situations that you are in your everyday life. So if you live in Marlow town, you don't need to be great around horses. But if you're going to go out and walk in the fields in the countryside around Marlow, your dog absolutely needs to be great around horses and needs to be able to come back to you when you ask them to. And you need to have a way of keeping them with you when they get back to you, which does involve leads, because most dogs will need some sort of help to stay with you in times when there's something sudden going on. And if you haven't trained your dog to be around horses, they need to be on a lead.
Sometimes it can be a bit worrying when you are a dog owner with a dog on a lead, and suddenly this big dog comes romping towards your little dog. I can feel quite nervous, and I have to keep my nerves under control so that I don't pass that on to my dog. But it is hard. Yeah,
it's really hard, and helping people understand why their off-lead dog running towards a dog on lead is not great is one thing, but those owners tend not to think there is a problem. But those owners who are keeping their dog on lead are probably doing it for a really good reason. So trying to educate everybody who owns a dog as to why there are certain situations when actually they may need to do something with their dog for somebody else is a really important part of what we're trying to do at Active Paws. So education and kind of, I guess, good owner etiquette.
Now, you mentioned horses. You actually, your business partner, who isn't here today because she's actually manning the place, you met her through horse riding, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, through a joint friend. So we rode horses together for many years and realised we shared a big passion for dogs, had lots of conversations around dogs, what might we do with a dog business. So Active Paws was probably about 2 years in the kind of business planning whilst we worked through what it could actually look like.
So that's Jenny Curtis.
Jenny Shaw.
Oh, Jenny Shaw. Oh,
it's all right.
Slap on the wrist. Wrote it down wrong. Jenny's apologies for that, but I got the story right. I know that. Let's play a little bit of music now, and then I can introduce my other guest who's sitting quietly opposite us. So here is Wild Horses. We trust that you won't actually meet any wild horses while you're out, especially with your dog. And here is Birdie. Well, that was Wild Horses by Birdie. Really enjoyed that one. And I'm enjoying talking to my guest, Ainsley Miller. And I've got my other guest, Jacqueline Newholm, opposite me. And we were just talking about some nice bits of music that she has selected. Yes, you've got a nice little list there. So good when my guests send me something. I've also got other stuff lined up just in case.
Sure.
Jacqueline, do you like to be called Jacqueline?
Either or, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I think it'll be formal, shall we,
Okay.
Jacqueline? How did you get involved with the organisation?
Well, I actually have had a bit of a life change as well. I have been involved in the IT industry for the last 17 years, and I got my first dog 9 years ago, and I realised how great he was, and decided that I wanted to have a career change and do something to do with dogs, and did some research and discovered that you could actually learn to be a dog massage therapist. And so it was through that I met Ainsley, who needed some help with a couple of her dogs that she has, and the treatment was very successful. In fact, the dogs just responded so well to it. It was brilliant. And then Active Paws invited me to be their on-site massage therapist for any of the dogs that come through who look as though they may be having issues with pain. It's obviously something that Ainsley's able to pick up on through her behaviour. And so I help dogs that are having who have painful muscles, painful joints, and I do that through massage.
Ainsley, how does a dog exhibit pain? Because it was a long time before our old dog, before I knew that he was in pain. And I can tell you shortly what he did, but I'll find out what he did normal.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and sometimes it's really, really subtle changes that happen over a period of time. So your dog might stop doing things that they used to do, like jumping over things or running round in circles when they're going out for walks, and gradually those behaviours stop happening, and you think maybe they're getting old or they're getting a bit tired. Others will show it a little bit more obviously, so they yelp. Okay, they injure themselves. That's quite an obvious one. People mostly realise that something's happened at that point. You've also got other little things. So if you're busy just stroking them, gently on the sofa at night, and suddenly your dog maybe flicks their head round and looks at your hand, or maybe they start licking their lips. It's not because they're hungry. It's usually a sign of anxiety or sign of stress that something painful is going on. Some of our dogs can roll on toys. They're trying to relieve a bit of pressure, when you've got that ache in your back and you try to stretch your shoulders back. So dogs are trying to use their toys to help give that little bit of flexibility. And gradually you might take pictures of them and you see that their posture changes. They might start tucking their bum underneath a little bit more. So they can be quite subtle, but one of the reasons you said, why would people come to help? They see changes, and mostly they start to express them. So dogs might stop wanting you to touch them. So you might go towards them and they might give you a little grumble to say, keep away. That's because they don't want to hurt when you touch them. They might start to take themselves off. If they used to curl up next to you on the sofa, they'll stop curling up next to you on the sofa and go and sit somewhere else, just so you don't touch them. So some of it can be quite subtle, some of it can be more obvious.
And Jacqueline, you put the dogs through their paces a bit. You watch their gait, you watch how they walk,
Yes.
don't you?
Yes, that's right. What we try to do is we have a very holistic approach to this. When an owner comes to me with their dogs, I'll do a short consultation with them, and that includes asking them questions about the dog's behaviour, what their exercise levels are, what sort of medication they might be on, but also as well as that, we do a posture analysis. So looking at how the dog is standing. Is the dog bearing weight evenly on all four paws? How does the dog sit down? Are they sitting square? Are they sticking one leg out like your little dog does?
Yes.
What are their forelegs doing when they're sitting? How are they holding their head? And also, as Ainsley said, are they roaching their back? All of that can be looked at from a static point of view. And then I also ask the dogs I try to get the owners to walk the dog slowly. When a dog is walking, they have to concentrate quite a bit on that particular movement because they need to have 3 paws on the floor at a time. So everything slows down, and what happens is that tends to exacerbate or exaggerate an issue that might be there. So, for example, very slight lameness, or they may be tracking slightly differently. They may be walking with their hind legs not on the corners, but in the middle, if that makes any sense. Or they may be slightly twisting their back leg or their front leg as they're walking along. And I monitor this. We'll take a video of it, and we'll show it back to the owner in slow motion so that they can actually see that possibly something's not quite right there. And that gives me a bit of an indicator as to where we need to start looking from a physical point of view at the dog.
Ainsley, you work with vets, do you? Do they refer pets to you?
Absolutely. Both of us work with vets. We can't diagnose. Only a vet can diagnose. But what we can do is we can look at a dog and discuss with the vets, which I do on a regular basis, how we can best help. So, making suggestions for X-rays, various treatments, pain relief, anything like that. So we have lots of discussions with vets as we go through. Ruling out a medical issue is the first thing that needs to happen when you're treating a dog behaviourally. You wouldn't just leap in, because if their behaviour is driven out of pain or out of a medical issue, we can potentially make that much worse. So that has got to be ruled out first and foremost.
Now, I mentioned our old dog, Taz, dear thing. Well, he wasn't a thing. He was lovely, but a lot of people were quite frightened of him. He was a rescue dog. We didn't know much about his history. He was very large, part German Shepherd, part Golden Retriever. So he was a very big dog. And when a very big dog starts to try and get on your lap, you know that something might be wrong. And he was really, desperate to be cuddled, and he was panting a lot. And I then discovered that was a pain indicator.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything your dog does that's unusual, out of character, we need to stop and go, what's causing this? Your dog isn't misbehaving, being naughty, being stubborn, anything like that. Actually, there's usually a really good reason behind it. It might not be very obvious to us at first, but there's always a reason. Right.
Well, let's carry on the conversation. After the next little bit of music, that was Shine by Take That. And this is Carla Delaney on Mid-Morning Matters. And we are discussing doggies, all things dog and behaviour. And if your dog is exhibiting pain, we've had some terrific advice just now about how to spot a dog who's in pain and what to look out for. So we've got Ainsley from the dog company that she has founded, and we've got Jacqueline from the company that she has founded. A big brown dog, Jacqueline. Your big brown dog. Did you get the name because your first pet was a brown dog?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
you can hear me now.
Okay, I can hear you now. We had a little issue with the controls. Yes. So did you? you named the business Big Brown
Yes.
Dog after your own pet.
Yes, as I was telling you about my first dog, he was a curly-coated retriever. They're the largest retriever breed, and he was big and brown. So, because he was the inspiration around me retraining, I wanted to give him some legacy, and I'm Big Brown Dog.
And did your dog actually have some pain issues, behavioural issues that you needed to deal with?
He did, but I didn't realise about it until it was too late, really. I think that, as I said, he was a large boy. I think through my studies, I became to understand that I think he may have had some hip dysplasia issues. I didn't get it diagnosed as... he had a heart condition as well, which meant that it wasn't a good idea to put him under general anaesthetic to have an X-ray. So, and I also realised as well that his neck was quite thick, and the muscles around his neck were quite hard. And basically, what happens when a dog has to compensate for a pain somewhere else, then that compensation is taken over in another part of the body. So dogs will naturally have 60% of their body weight in the front. And if you have a problem with your back legs, then so the back legs are the legs that are used to create the power for movement. And if that power isn't available, say, for example, if your dog has hip dysplasia, then what will happen is that the front legs will take over, and then more muscles will build up in the front. And also, because dogs don't actually have a collarbone like we do, their front legs are attached to their body by a large muscular sling. And so that means that dogs really need to use their neck as an integral part of their forelimb movement. So the muscles in the legs become overdeveloped, and then that can cause muscles in the neck to become overdeveloped as well. And that's where you can get a cycle of a growing cycle of chronic pain, which might be something that your German Shepherd Cross may have suffered from as well.
I didn't realise about the shoulders, you know, because people don't know about the skeleton of their dog, do they? They
That's
don't know
right.
how it all works. They just know that they do stuff.
Yeah.
Hip dysplasia, knee, you know, my little dog, you mentioned that she sticks her back leg out, and that's because I've been told by a vet that she has dislocated knee. My daughter also has it, but nobody actually ever suggested to my daughter that she had an operation on it, certainly not when she was young, and they are now suggesting it as she gets older. They seem to leave these things. Do they do that with dogs as well?
It's a bit difficult for me to answer that, as I'm not a vet, and so
But
it would be a
you come across
case-by-case
these
basis.
sort of things all the time, so people tend to leave things, don't they?
Yes, and I suppose I deal mostly with chronic cases, so issues that have been around for a long time, where the body is trying to protect a joint to stop it from moving. For example, with your little dog, we were talking before about how we noticed that she stuck her back leg out.
Well, that was SOS by ABBA, and this is Carla Delaney on Mid Morning Matters, and we are generally talking about dogs and the things that owners do for their animals. But I have to read a story that I've just spotted that will bring horror to my guest Ainsley. I will show her the story in a minute. There's a lovely picture of a cat with painted nails. And it said, and the headline in the Daily Mail is "Cruel for Cats, Claws Out for the Owners Who Parade Pets with Fake Nails on Social Media." I mean, fake nails. I mean, whatever next? I mean, you know, people are just trying to treat their animals as like little humans, aren't they? I mean, you go into various shops. I mean, there are shops now, and I think there might even be one in Marlow that has outfits for your dogs, and actually some of them them and quite cute. But there's all kinds of things that are being sold now. We've got pet mania. Ainsley, you're looking a bit horrified about this story here in the Daily Mail today.
Yeah, and now you're passing it.
I will
passing
pass
it to me. Yes, I do like our animals to be animals. Cats in particular, well, not just in particular, cats and dogs. They are animals. They have their own feelings and their own innate desires and needs. And painting a cat's nails, I'm not sure is very high on their list of things that needs to happen to them.
No, actually, I would be. I take my dog to have her nails done because I can't actually bring myself to cut her nails. It's just something I'm not quite sure I can do. But these sort of things is getting a bit out of hand. Little frilly dresses for dogs. I suppose sometimes do owners bring them to your place, Active Paws, and they've got little outfits on?
I'm really delighted to say that actually hasn't happened yet. Thankfully, it hasn't happened. But let's put it. Some dogs will not mind it. Other dogs will. It's really very much about, again, if an owner did do that, it's not for me to comment straight away. I'd be looking at the dog to see if they're happy or not with what's going on. That's what I'd be looking for, because some dogs may not mind it at all, but some dogs may really not be comfortable with it, and that's then the owner enforcing what they want to happen to their dog onto their dog, regardless of how their dog feels about it.
Right.
And I'm a bit of a dog advocate from that point of view.
Yes. And then, we were talking just before the news about, there are like designer dogs at the moment. They're breeds that are relatively new, and I'm thinking of cockapoos and all sorts of dogs that weren't around a few years ago because they're a mixture of things. But I presume when you get to these mixtures put together, they exhibit a whole new realm of behaviour.
Yeah, so they're going to be a mix of whatever the breeds are that's in the dog, and what is going to be displayed you don't know until you look at it. So every dog you would treat as an individual dog anyway, regardless of mixed breed or pure breed, but predictability with a mixed breed is something you certainly don't have and can't have despite probably breeders' best intentions.
Now, I met one of your clients who was very enthusiastic about coming to the training sessions that you have. Now, you mentioned that you are on a business park, so you've got a big space, basically, haven't you? So give us an idea of what people can expect. So you've got a lot of equipment, haven't you?
Yeah. So when you come into our centre, we have spent a lot of time making sure that it's really comfortable for owners and dogs. We want everybody to feel comfortable there. So we have our rubber flooring down, so we don't have dogs slipping and sliding around, and so it can be, from a hygiene point of view, cleaned easily and well. We're very proud of the fact that it doesn't smell doggy when you walk in. Whenever somebody says, I can smell the rubber flooring, I'm going, yay, that's great. And so we have set it all up so that it's a comfortable space. We do have a little shop which does sell some stuff, but we're very specific with what we sell. We have tried and tested everything we sell, and it usually has a behavioural reason as to why it would be useful for your puppy or your dog at any point in time. So we try to cover everything. We have tea and coffee available for owners if they fancy that. We have toilet facilities. It's car parking spaces. It's really set up to make life as easy as possible for dogs and owners to be able to learn within the centre.
And so there are tunnels for dogs to go through and things to equipment to leap over, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so we do fun agility. That's one of the things that we do.
Fun agility, I like that.
Yeah, so we're not a club. There are a lot of agility clubs. We're not a club. We do it for fun, but we have an amazing trainer, Graham Tappin, who does teach it to competitive level. So if people do get the bug, and many of our owners do get the bug, they can go on and to compete. They've been taught in the right way from the beginning. But for many of our owners, they just come for fun because they enjoy it, and they can see their dog really loves it. We have other bits of equipment and other things that we do with our dogs really to make it a fun experience, but all of the training that we do is able to be used in everyday life, and that's what it's all about.
So I presume that you would recommend that people come with puppies, because people just don't know what to do with the puppy, do they? They look so cute, and you just want to love them. But really, they should be doing things to do what dogs do.
Yeah, if you're buying a puppy, you do need to think about what you're going to, what you need from that puppy, and you do need to get your training in. But actually, even before that, really think about what fits into your lifestyle. What breed do you need? What is going to work for you? If you live in a town, a collie is not going to be the best thing for you, because collies need lots of space and they need lots of things to do mentally. If you live in a flat, you're not going to want to get a Leonberger or a Great Dane. It's probably not going to be very appropriate. So, your breed needs to be appropriate to where you live, your lifestyle, if you have children, all of those things that you do. And there are some great websites for that, but we also do give owners great advice at Active Paws. And we also help people find, once they've found a breed of dog, find good breeders, because good breeders really make that
I'm glad
happen.
you mentioned that, because there is a big worry, isn't there, of puppy farms and dogs being smuggled into the country, little puppies just smuggled in, and then people pretend that they've been bred in their homes, and they haven't at all. I mean, that is a worrying prospect, isn't it?
Yeah, it causes very serious health problems and behavioural problems later on down the line. So you're buying a cute puppy, but actually potentially you're buying a whole heap of problems further down the line. So really, don't buy just on your heart. You really have to have done your research and buy with your head too, to ensure that you get healthy puppies, and to stop encouraging those puppy farm breeders and those backyard breeders.
Because it's a lot of money that is exchanging hands, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be huge amounts of money, and that is fine if you've got a good, reputable breeder who's breeding healthy puppies. Okay, if you and so research it first. It's a serious amount of money. Know who you're giving your money to. If your puppy is really cheap, there is also a really good reason for it. So you need to understand that and go into it with your eyes wide open.
And you work with Animal Rehoming Centre, don't you? And the dogs that they bring to you, sometimes they are exhibiting problems.
Yes, so many of the dogs that I work with at the Oxford Animal Sanctuary have got problems. That's why they're there, for various reasons. Some are there for reasons of, an owner died, or somebody has moved house and they're not able to take their dog into the new rented accommodation. So there are other reasons, but many of them do have behavioural problems, and I'm really delighted to be working very closely with them to help those dogs be able to find a home, whereas many of them may be not able to find a home without some behavioural intervention.
Jacqueline, we'll talk to you for a moment about the sort of issues that are quite commonplace at the moment that maybe people don't realise.
Well, you have a raft of problems that might be exhibited by your dogs, some of which may have been diagnosed by the vets. I mentioned before about hip dysplasia. Osteoarthritis is also another condition that dogs will hopefully not have during their life, but it is one of those age-related diseases that is sometimes inevitable. But there are also a lot of activities that owners will do with their dogs that they might not realise are potentially going to be damaging to the dog's body. And an example would be something like, these ball throwers. Where you a ball chucker, I think that's what they're called, where the owner basically stands at the edge of a park throwing the ball for the dog. Could do that for 15 or 20 minutes. That could be about 30 or 40 times the dog's running after the ball. Yes, it tires the dog out. They're getting some exercise. But if we consider every time a dog has to stop for that ball that bounces at the end of a throw, the dog is having to brake very quickly. They're putting a lot of pressure on their front legs and on their wrist joints, for example. And they're also turning because the ball is going to bounce. So they're not quite sure which way to go, so they possibly twist their legs as well. If we're throwing the ball that many times, there's a risk of repetitive strain injury. We get repetitive strain injury, so why wouldn't dogs if they're doing an activity over and over and over again? And also, if you're throwing a ball, if you throw the ball up in the air, it's there's a likelihood that the dog may jump up and land awkwardly, quite often on their back legs. The dog's bodies are built for actually landing on the front because there's more shock absorption there because of all the muscles and the extra weight that's held in the front. If the dog lands awkwardly and twists their back leg, then you can possibly run into cruciate ligament damage, cruciate ligament tear, which then can get worse over time, which then possibly leads to possible surgery and then arthritis after that. So there are a good few things that owners can do to avoid putting their dogs in painful situations. And balls and throwing balls is one of mine and Ainsley's big bugbears. You have to just be aware of what you're putting the dog through physically.
Yeah. So
that is very interesting.
Yeah, so it's about also understanding mental versus physical stimulation for our dogs. So yes, dogs do need to run and they do need to stretch their legs. But actually what tires a dog out is using their brain in the way that they were designed to use their brain for. So you can throw a ball in using a ball chucker, but throw it in long grass. So your dog can't see where it is, so they have to slow down naturally and then start using their nose to sniff it out. That's a fantastic combination of physical and mental exercise. So, yeah, throwing balls on short grass, no, I'm not a great fan of. And Jacqueline's got all of her other reasons, but I go, yeah, but mentally it's not very challenging either. So you still don't have a mentally tired dog when you go home. Throw it in long grass, you're ticking both boxes. Fantastic.
Now, you've already said the sort of dogs that shouldn't be in, say, flats or apartments, whatever. It's sort of, you've got to select a dog according to what you have, your environment, family needs. But little dogs, for instance, have become, as we said, the people are carrying them around. I've seen dogs in pushchairs. Now, it's possible that maybe it's an elderly dog, so we might actually forgive the owner for doing that, because I imagine it might just can't walk very far. Mm-hmm. So how do you assess them? Sort of, if somebody brings in a dog that doesn't do a lot of exercise because the owner assumes it can't do it, but how do you find out that it can do it?
Okay, so again, you're looking at. I'm going to understand from the owner's point of view how they've got to where they've got to. It may be that the owner isn't very physically able, or has been told some things from somewhere. Owners pick up loads of information from loads of different sources. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but it's like our newspaper article
with
today,
painting cat's nails.
Yeah. So you're trying to understand why has the owner got to this position, and actually what I need to do is I need to show the owner how they can add more value to their dog's life, how they can make it more interesting, how they can get their dog to a happier place. But if the owner has restrictions on them, it needs to be done within the realms of possibility of the owner. There's no point in me saying to somebody who can't walk for miles, you need to get this dog out walking in the countryside, and they actually physically can't do that. So it's about compromise and using all of the knowledge that I've got of different games and different things to teach dogs to help manage everything. So just sitting and teaching them little tricks is a great thing to do, because it does tire everybody. It tires you out and it tires them out. A lot of owners complain happily at the end of class of being tired because I've challenged them as much as challenged their dogs, but they're all sat there really happy going, wow, that was great, but I'm shattered now. And I'm like, yes, and so is your dog. Go home and sleep well. And I'll see you next week.
And can you actually teach an old dog new tricks?
100%. So the phrase comes from actually in referring to an old sea dog, okay, which is a human being. Okay, maybe you can't teach an old sea dog new tricks, but you certainly can teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, that is very interesting. Jacqueline, you're all about preventative care, aren't you?
Well, yes, and but also we were just talking about older dogs. What we need to remember is that, and as Ainsley said, taking a dog for a walk, if it's not possible at all, then all of these games and exercises that you can do at home will keep dogs moving. Because if dogs aren't moving, their muscles aren't working. If their muscles aren't working, their joints aren't moving. If the joints aren't moving, everything stiffens up. And without movement, we're not actually able to let the body do what it needs to do as far as pushing nourishing oxygenated blood around the body to all of the cells that need that nourishment from all of the nutrients and all of the hormones and all of the other fantastic things that the blood has to help heal. This helps the body to heal naturally, and also movement also helps the body to cleanse itself of toxins. So if you're not moving, you're not healing and you're not cleansing either. So it is quite important to, although a dog might be slowing down, there's no reason why they have to be. That's what the point I wanted to get across, really.
And Ainsley's nodding her head at that one. So I think we'll carry on the conversation after the next little bit of music. We got Jolene lined up, Dolly Parton. Is it you've selected this one, Jacqueline?
It's just another one of my favourite songs, really.
Well, I think it's a favourite of Mid Morning Matters too. And just to remind you, this is Carla Delaney on Mid Morning Matters. And if you did want to ring in and you've got to get some advice to do with your pet, then please do. We are 01628 488 975. Or you can always email me at studio@marlowfm.co.uk. So here is Jolene by Dolly Parton. Oh, the very spectacular Dolly Parton. I mean, she is just a special lady. And I've got two special ladies in front of me who are
so
telling
kind.
me... Oh, thank you. But we're talking all things dogs, aren't we? Ainsley, I mean, you've... have you always had dogs?
No, I didn't have dogs in my childhood because I was brought up in Saudi Arabia, but I watched dogs being treated quite badly.
Therein lies another tale, I suspect.
Probably does.
Yes, well, yes, so imagine, because when you're in those sort of countries, yes, you do see emaciated dogs, obviously dogs with fleas, all sorts,
yeah.
and you're a bit worried about going near them in case they've got rabies.
Yeah, well, we used to as children adopt the dogs that lived in our compound and adopt the puppies and beg our parents to allow us to keep the puppies, which they didn't, but they did live stray on the compound, so they kind of became our dogs. But when I started being able to own dogs, obviously working in the event industry didn't give me loads of time to have my own dogs, but I did do that nevertheless and managed to find time to have them. It just became more and more important to me the more I understood of what was going on with my dogs. I have a passion for psychology and understanding people everywhere. We're all different, aren't we? We're all individuals and we all have different drivers and motivations. So fascinating to try to understand an animal who can't talk to us. How can we understand their drivers and motivations and how they can cope with living with us? So that really fueled me.
Imagine part of your training is psychology of people as well.
Yeah, anybody who says they've come in to do this because they want to work with dogs and not people, that's not really going to work. You have to work with people and you have to be able to understand where people are coming from, because if you don't get it right for the people, you're never going to get it right for the dogs, because the people influence the dogs. So that's super important.
Now, my background includes being a consumer journalist where I, help people who've got complaints with shops and things. And I know that there's always two sides to a story and that customers can be a bit tricky. So when people come to you and they've got a dog that's being a bit tricky and you can see that maybe they're doing something that's not quite right, you've got to be very diplomatic, I suppose.
Yeah, yes, you do. And there are some things that people say, and you have to let that drift and just focus on the bigger issues and get some quick wins under your belt. So show them how clever their dog is, how quick their dog can learn something. And once they've started that journey, everything else is much easier because they go, oh, my dog's actually quite clever. Yes, your dog is very clever.
Jacqueline, at the moment, there's, a lot of people are doing selfies. In fact, the cat having its nails painted has that story's come about as a result of selfies. Now, people are enjoying dogs doing tricks, being on their back legs, doing clever tricks on their back legs and everything. And you were saying that, they're not designed to do all this, really.
No, that's right. And dogs have 4 legs and 4 paws because they should be using all 4 of them. And it puts an unnecessary strain on the back legs and on the lower back if dogs are in an upright position. And also the way that we walk on our feet, we use our whole foot and it's placed on the floor. Dogs actually only walk, if you look at the comparative skeletons, dogs just walk on their fingers on the tops of their toes. So they've not got such a they're not built for that sort of for that stance, and their feet aren't built for it either, and it's just not a good idea.
It's interesting that because I'm just thinking of a cartoon where the old style Hanna-Barbera cartoons where the cat and the dog, they would walk on, as you've just described, their fingers. So really, whoever did the drawings in those early days knew.
Got it right.
They got it right. They studied how animals walk. That's a very interesting point. Now, Ainsley, the dogs going to the vet, that's a big issue, isn't it?
Yes, it's one I'm really, really very passionate about. So, a lot of our dogs do struggle going to the vets. The vets can be quite a scary place, especially for dogs who have experienced pain. We started off talking about pain, and they start to make associations with when they are in pain. And whilst we do take our dogs for annual vaccinations and for checkups, we kind of do that from when they're a puppy, and then it kind of drifts to just being once a year, unless there's a reason. And if there's a reason, your dog's usually in pain for that reason. So going to the vets has usually got some sort of pain association with it, which can make some dogs really fearful of going to the vets. So I'm really passionate about this and seeing if we can make it easier for our dogs to have these vet procedures and to have the more common things done to them and for them to be happy with it. So what we're trying to do is change the dog's emotional state from them being worried and fearful to actually going, oh no, when this happens, it's a good thing, it's positive. So we're starting some quite serious vet training. It's called Happy Pets and Happy Vets. We've got our local vets involved. They're really up for this because, of course, they're the sharp end, literally, when dogs really get to the extreme and perhaps potentially even bite our vet. So they are at the sharp end of it all, to really see if we can help dogs turn this around and make it a much better experience. If we can only help them cope, that's great. And then we want to start with our puppies and really get our puppies set up for being successful at the vets wherever we can. So I'm really passionate about that as a programme.
Now, we haven't actually said where your operation is. I mean, you why didn't you select Marlow?
Probably because it's very expensive, but also I live up in South Oxfordshire now, so Active Paws is based just up the M40 from here, off Junction 6, at a place called Chowgrove. It's literally 10 minutes from the motorway. Historically,
the area is extremely interesting, sort of Roundheads and Cavaliers and everything like that. So you're on the outskirts of the town, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an easy drive. You don't get stuck in loads of traffic to get to us in any way. That was a big part of us choosing the location. Easy access from the motorway, so you can be with us from Marlow within 30 minutes, and we have quite a few clients who come from Marlow.
You have, I gather, some clients from Marlow, and vets. Word has got around around that you've got this very interesting centre, because it's you certainly have, as I said earlier on, at the very beginning, you put your heart and soul into this. You've done an awful lot of study. So you've done a lot of personal study, but then you've studied what you need to have to put everything into practice and have one place where people can go. Because I imagine you can go, to like dog training in one place and physiotherapy in another and all of that. But you're trying to get it all under one roof, aren't you?
We are. So we believe we're at the start of our journey, and Jenny and I are working with Jacqueline. There is more to come. Jacqueline's going off to do more study. Jenny has done more study through COPE. So we're really aiming to have the best qualified people with the passion for mental and physical health and well-being as the forefront of what the Active Paws Centre is all about, and really bringing people along on our journey, and helping everybody to enjoy their dogs, and for dogs to be much happier is just the biggest passion. And that's where Jacqueline, Jenny and I are completely aligned. We all want the same thing for the dogs, but we have different specialisms of it.
Yes, and preventative, we touched on that a little bit just before that bit of music, but preventative care, if you know there's a problem,
well,
it's do something about it.
Yeah, but I guess it's also trying to, as Ainsley was saying, we're working with puppies. Actually, I've just got a new puppy, and she's 19 weeks old, bless her, and took her along to the puppy class that Ainsley ran at Active Paws, and we were not only doing the mental training, but it was also quite an important part to get the owners to understand that the dogs need some amount of physical training as well. And by that we mean sort of slowing everything down, making sure that the dogs are using the right muscles at the right time. But moving on from that, when you're bringing your dogs home, think a little bit about what sort of flooring you have in your house. It's a lot of us these days have the hard wooden flooring downstairs. It's a really it's quite a slip hazard for dogs, to be honest, and so they can't get a grip on the floor, and they run the risk of really overstretching, overextending their legs, and then pulling muscles in the groin and under the arms as well, which can take quite a long time to get better from. So thinking about maybe having a series of rugs down around the house would be useful. Think about where your dog's going to sleep. Are they going to be sleeping upstairs? If they are, what sort of surface do you have on your stairs? And make it try to help the dogs to go up and down the stairs slowly, if you can. When the dogs are getting older, you probably want to stop them from going upstairs, because it can be quite a strain on the body to go up and down stairs, especially dogs that have got achy joints and that sort of thing. And also when we're taking our dogs for a walk or even a jog, we often like to run for 5 miles. Well, I don't, but some crazy people will do it. Go for a jog with their dogs. Let's not forget that the dogs are actually running probably twice that amount if they're off lead in an open area. When we undertake any exercise, we are always told to warm up and cool down afterwards. We do it for ourselves, but think about doing that for your dogs as well.
So how can you do that?
Yep, you can do that by making sure that the dogs have been able to walk to the place where you're going to be doing the exercise. So not a lot of point pulling up in the car. The dogs are in the car, they're cold, and then starting to run them straight away isn't going to prepare the muscles and the ligaments for the physical activity they're going to do. So spend about 5 or 10 minutes walking the dog slowly around on a lead. And then you could also give them a bit of a rub down as well. So hands on the larger muscles to actually physically warm the dogs up. And We teach those classes as well, by the way. Just another plug.
We do.
So it's and also what you're actually doing is you're engaging with the dog. Massage is all about touch. Dogs are extremely responsive to touch, so a warm-up massage of sorts before some physical activity can be really great.
So you show people how to do massage?
Yes. For any treatments that I also give to the dogs, I'll also show the owners how to massage their dogs at home, because our treatments are usually a week to 2 weeks apart for the first bunch. So it's important that the owners have that knowledge that they can take home with them. So we're also wanting to sort of give the owners that have dogs that need some extra help the opportunity to practice these techniques and be more in tune with the dogs mentally and physically.
Now, I gather that you have New Zealanders in your background. Do people treat their dogs differently there?
Well, I grew up in New Zealand, and unfortunately I never had dogs while I was growing up because my dad was actually quite allergic to dogs, so we had budgies and rabbits. So couldn't really take a budgie for a walk, really.
Well, very
successfully.
I used to take it's another story. I used to have a dog I used to have a budgie that I had to take from Essex to Norwich in its cage, and I got stopped by the police once because they wanted to chat because they recognised me because I used to do court reporting, and they said, they were talking to me, and I said, look, can I just go back to the car because my budgie's in the car and it'll get cold. And they went, it's not flying about in there, is it? And so therein lies a tale. And I had to keep Budgie warm in the snow and everything. Yeah. But most people don't carry their budgie around. That is a given. But yes, when people aren't used to animals, they just fancy one. I mean, Ainsley, you said people have got to do their homework.
Yeah.
So, they've read that, this dog's really cute, and I've seen pictures, they say, I've seen pictures on the internet and everything. They've really got to do their homework, haven't they?
Yeah, it is really important. Otherwise, you do get owners who do regret how they purchased, but they love that dog and they still want to do the right thing by it. But for me, I think it's really about, we really need to support all the really good breeders in this country who are doing everything correct. They are wanting to produce really healthy puppies, not just physically, but also from a temperament point of view, and keeping them true to what that is all about. There's a lot of people talking about all of this now. We have to somehow stop encouraging the puppy farms, and the only way to do that is for people to stop buying those puppies. But then it then is, once you've got your puppy, how do you prepare it? So Jacqueline's talking about in our homes how we are living with slippy floors, and she immediately says so put carpets down and put rugs down, and I'm going, yeah, but then when that puppy then starts weeing on that's True. Not going to go down so well. So there's an alternative. There are always options. So I have mats in my house which are vet bed, which washes really easily. So if your puppy does have an accident, it's fine. You just put it in the washing machine, wash it at 60 degrees, biological washing powder, and it's dry within half an hour of it being washed. So there are ways of compromising on all of this. Jacqueline is absolutely right. We do need that, but we can't use a nice rug because it's not going to wear very well from a puppy point of view. So there's balance in everything. Going up and down stairs, put a harness on, weight bear. They can still do these things, but you can adapt it, because a lot of people go, yeah, but that's really hard. My dog's always slept upstairs. I can't do that, and I can't carry my golden retriever upstairs now he's 13. How on earth am I supposed to manage that? So it's all about working it through with the owner so that they can still do everything that they want to do, but it fits everybody. So it's really tailoring.
Because dogs are part of our our family, aren't they?
Yeah.
Our life. So.
Oh, family. Maybe we can find a bit of music for that. I'm going to play, actually, something that is appropriate, Firework by Katy Perry. And then after she has sung this, maybe we can find out what people can do to help their dogs at times of celebration, carnivals, firework day and everything. So here is Katy Perry. Well, that was Firework by Katy Perry. Very appropriate. I selected it because I wanted to ask Ainsley, with Carnival coming up, there'll be fireworks. Fireworks seem to come about for all kinds of reasons, not just our traditional own firework night. We've got Diwali and all sorts of things. And some of the fireworks are very, very loud and quite frightening, and dogs get afraid. So what can you do about that then?
Okay, so if you have a dog who is already, afraid of fireworks, it really depends on the extent. Some of our dogs don't like it and just about cope. If they have a safe place to go to, you were just describing some of the safe places for your dog. Then making their chosen place safe. Just because we think a certain place in our house is safe isn't necessarily the same place our dogs feel is safe. So make it somewhere that they're happy to be. If it's with you and they're coming to you for reassurance, cuddle them, reassure them, just hold them. That's really what they're looking for. Some of our dogs need an awful lot more work than that, and there are dogs that can successfully be helped with noise CDs. So there are CDs that you can get, and they talk you through how to slowly desensitize your dog. But for others, actually, it's not just the noise that they're worried about, it's the vibrations that they can feel. So actually just replicating something playing it on our CD player or anything doesn't actually help them. And for some dogs, they do need medication to help get through it, and there's no harm to our dogs at all to give them medication to help them, and you should seek that help. But what I would say is, if your dog really struggles, talk to your vet, talk to a behaviourist to get the right help. If you are looking for a behaviourist, make sure you have got a behaviourist who has got qualifications, and I can't stress that enough. We're not in a regulated industry, unfortunately. I find that really sad, and there are people out there who are behaviourists, who say they're behaviourists, who don't practice the way that I would like to see them practice. They're not looking out for the dog's best interests and looking at dogs' emotions first and foremost. So I would encourage people to go and have a look at our COPE Association website, which is www.capbt.org. And you have a Find a Behaviourist section, which you can go in, put where you are in the country, and it will come up. And if you can't find somebody, you email us and we will sort that out for you. But make sure if you're seeking advice, it's from a qualified person. So
people can find you. You have a website, and that's...
Absolutely. Active Paws has a website. It's activepawsfitness.co.uk. So if you're in the local area, even if you're not, and you've heard this, call us. We will point you in the right direction. We are open 7 days a week. There is always somebody there to answer the telephone. So call us, email us. We're really happy to help.
You really have thought of everything, haven't you? What about events? You've got some events coming up?
We have. So with Jacqueline?
Yes. I run workshops as well to teach owners how to massage their own dogs, and it's really useful for owners to understand a little bit more about what lies underneath their dog's skin and how their body works. And also we've been talking about understanding how pain can impact your dog. Well, I do a little bit about that as well, and what owners can do, what measures they can take to help reduce pain. And if you come along to one of the workshops, you will go home with several massage techniques that you can use and some simple stretches, mobility, joint mobilization exercises, should I say, that you can do on your own dogs. I have a couple of workshops coming up. One is on the 14th of October, and the next one is on the 11th of November. Those are Saturdays, and it's at the Knoll Hill Village Hall. That's just on the A4 in between Maidenhead and Reading. Pop onto my website and you can find out more details about it. Go onto the workshops page. My website is www.bigbrowndogtherapy.co.uk.
Well, I think we've covered a great deal of things this morning. I've really enjoyed it, learnt a great deal. Didn't realise my dog walks on its fingers. I just have this image now. And that is really, well, I've learnt a lot. And I'm sure our listeners have learnt a great deal too. Now we've got Mike Cannon will be, he's gearing up for the Eclectic Light Show, and he's got music from 1964, which he says is a really good year. So we're looking forward to that. He's also got two guests today. He's got somebody from Marlow Archaeological Society. Then he's got a Swedish friend coming in to talk about all things Swedish. And he says it's not just meatballs. So I'm sure it'll be a really, really good show. And I know that Mike's enjoyed the programme today because he's got two border collies. And I'm sure he's got lots of advice that... we're all doggy owners who love our dogs, and we don't necessarily do the right thing, but we're all doing our best. And that's all we can ever do, really. So this is Carla Delaney signing off Mid-Morning Matters for today, and we're going to sign it off with Diamond Dogs by David Bowie. What a good choice by Jacqueline. And thank you very much. So both of my guests today, thank you so much. And keep on listening to Mike Cannon after the news.